The PETM podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. Go to patreon.com/PETM and join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get that free koozie. The best part is every cent in 2017 we're donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PETM posse today. Be part of the sport you love. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up month level. $5 and up a month level, if
that'll
I say it right.
Sometimes.
Yep, that'll happen. Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Jeffrey Whitler, Lori Sutton, Tony Salt, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marianne Levesque, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Mick Rose, and Steve Jr. the third. Let's do this, y'all. Woo! Welcome, y'all! Hey! That's right. This is a Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 91 for Tuesday, March 21st, 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm joining the PETM Podcast studio during a very scary sort of night outside with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherman. What's up, dude?
Well, you dialed up some interesting weather, that's for sure.
No kidding. It's been clear skies all night tonight, and we just looked outside and looked at the weather. 50-mile-an-hour winds, insane thunder and lightning. We're going to do this anyway. Heck with it.
I was on a patio in Alpharetta drinking beer under the sun like 2.5, 3 hours
right?
ago.
Right? I don't know what to tell you, man. But here we are. I don't know if you brought it with you or if I just left it here. But
I think my crappy Uber driver brought it. I'll leave that for another time.
Yeah, that'll happen. So, boy, we've got a great show for y'all tonight. We have a guest who we talked to a little earlier. We'll bring that video in here in a little bit. But what fun that is, and y'all are going to have fun listening to his perspective on a few different sports, on a few different things he's working on and stuff. We're going to have a boatload of fun. We'll introduce him here in a little bit. Before we get to that, Sherwin, car number 91 on PETM 91.
Driver 91.
Driver 91 is one person and one person. I mean, there's maybe 75 people who've driven this car. But if you're talking about car 91, you're talking about Mr. Tim Flock.
Ooh, Tim and Fonty Flock, brothers racers.
Yeah, Tim Flock. All right, these stats, y'all, I nerded out a little bit because I couldn't help it.
This is awesome. It's like a whole paragraph.
Yeah, 90 of his 187 races, so about half his races over 13 years in the 50s, a little bit. I think he started racing in 1949 and ended in like 1962, but mainly in the 50s there. 16 wins in 90 races, 52 top fives in 90 races, 64 top 10s in 90 races.
Those are Jeff Gordon kind of numbers.
Right.
In all seriousness.
I think Jeff Gordon had Tim Flock kind of numbers.
That's a better point.
This one blew my mind. You ready for this? In the 90 car, or the 91 car rather, he ran 9,633 laps. He led 2,195 of those. That's a quarter of the laps that he ran in this car he led.
That's amazing.
That's ridiculous.
I don't even know how do you even, like, if you're a statistician, how do you even go, what is this? What kind of lies are you telling me?
Well, and if you have to put everybody on a graph, all right, I'm going to get real nerdy here. You're going to have to draw that little squiggly line at some point to be like, all right, all these people are in this data range, and squiggly line, this guy's way out here somewhere.
Oh, and then like step change.
Yeah, exactly. So, in 1955, he had 18 wins. That was 45 races then. But still, that number held up until Richard Petty got 19 in one season, and that number will hold up for the history of NASCAR as far as I am concerned.
Oh, yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, 19 poles in that season, which is still a record.
Wow.
Yeah. In 1953, he won at Hickory Speedway with a rhesus monkey in the passenger seat named Jocko Flacco.
That is probably what he's best known for, is having the monkey sitting over there hanging out. Like, how does that even – where does that fit in the grand scheme? Like, what is that in the bell curve of weird or awesome or cool or
why not?
I don't even know what the hell that is. Like, why is the monkey riding in the car?
There's no telling. And in 1953, just riding in the car. Imagine that today. Imagine somebody running around.
Well, it wasn't like Clint Eastwood in Any Which Way Loose with the orangutan. Like, it was 20 years before that.
Right. So, what's that? Oh, that's my monkey. Like, here's Dale Jr. coming in, his rhesus monkey.
What? Can't even.
Oh, man. So at the this was kind of a funny quote of his. At the end of the 1952 season, he got his first Grand National Championship title. He flipped in the final race at West Palm Beach, and he joked later, "I was the only driver to ever win a championship upside down."
That's funny.
That's a good joke. And if you remember, in Charlotte Motor Speedway, we stayed at the campground called the Tim Flock Campground.
That's right. That's right. And I'm going to stop you really quick because you
for it.
skipped over something I wanted to read in
Okay.
here in the notes. He won the only NASCAR Cup race at Elkhart Lake Road America, 1955.
That's another great stat. The only race there. And
Why don't we go there more?
Tim Flock,
Excuse
y'all.
me. Sorry.
He died at age 73. I can't remember the year. I didn't write it down here. I remember being 73 years old. So we're going to raise a glass, y'all, to Tim
always.
Flock. How cool is that? I mean, one of the, I think it was Spotter Brett who said, blue-collar badasses.
Blue-collar badass and 100%.
And 100%, buddy. That one was one of my most fun to look at. Every stat that he has is one that can't be true. That can't be true. That can't be true.
It's a fact that can't be a fact.
Yep. Well, dude, I think it's time to bring in our guest in our little session here that we had earlier, and talk a little bit about. I hope y'all that y'all don't tune out at this point. I think what he's got to say about the sport of soccer. He's a Major League Soccer referee, and what he has to say is really cool. Just to hear what he has to say about the vibe that's going on. What he goes through, what his routine is, and he's also a big NASCAR fan. So how that parallels NASCAR stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the way these things tie in, we don't want to get into the generic side of giving you news. We're going to give you what our personality is, all right? So you know what we love, you know what we like. This is part of what we love and like. We love to bring you a guest that's not mainstream, like when we can.
Yep.
And we've done that a lot, and so this is going to be a lot of fun.
All right, here we go, y'all. Here we are, y'all. I want y'all to meet a guy that I'm so excited I can't even come up with words. We had to redo this intro just now.
Which is the first time we've ever done that, by the way.
First time ever. I just messed it up so bad. I was like, well, let's just do take two since we can. It's Major League Soccer referee Corey Rockwell is with us, and also a big NASCAR fan. I love all these crossovers, Sherwin. The last several guests, we've had country music singer and NASCAR fan. We've had Miss America pageant and NASCAR fan. And we've had Juliet Miranda on a few times, alcohol fan and not really NASCAR fan, but hey,
author and former rock and roll journalist aspirer.
That's right. So, Corey, how you doing today?
Hey, everything's going good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So we go a long way back in different ways with Corey. He's a fraternity brother of ours, graduated a bit before we did, but really cool to have him on. Corey, before we get started, what you drinking today?
You know what? I'm sorry to be boring, but I got vanilla Coke on the rocks in my parents' 1980s glass, so I apologize about
Very
this.
nice. Oh, that's a pretty glass. That's an old school Coke glass, isn't it?
Old school.
I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
Oh, is that the one that flowers out at the top?
Yeah. It's got kind of
we had
green
some of those
eye.
when I was a kid, for sure.
Right. Well, so getting us started,
What?
Sherwin.
We didn't say what we
Well,
got.
we didn't. So I've got a Guinness right here, celebrating after the March 17th, the old St. Patty's Day. So had a few of these left over in the fridge.
This is our tweener episode. We didn't really have a St. Patty's Day episode, so we kind of...
True. Yep. So got a sip on that. Cheers to you, Corey.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right, Corey, so I think one of the things we want to talk about is how you and I met, and then we can go back in time. We'll get in the DeLorean, and we'll go back in time. So I'll say first we met at what is the formal part of Rush Week. You were the keynote speaker on Steak Night. And then I recognized you immediately, and we had sort of a discourse about what we're going to get in a DeLorean and travel back to now. So we're in the DeLorean, we go back 6 months, barely 6 months. And you, at that time, I was a soccer player. I know all the people watching on video are going to say bullspit, because I don't look like a soccer player anymore. But you were the center referee in the Georgia 4A, largest classification at the time, state championship soccer game.
That's right.
That's how we first ever came across each other's paths.
Yeah. Yep. So I remember that it was early in the game. He correct me on the details, but this defender came in and he made this absolutely brilliant tackle and wiped the player out. And the ball went out. I think for corner or something. And this player jumped up and looked me in the eyes like, "Oh my gosh, is he gonna call a penalty kick on me or recognize this as a good tackle?" And thankfully, I looked at him back, smiled, and kind of said, "Yep, you're good to go on this one." So I think that was our first meeting and first exchange. Did I get the details right?
Pretty close. I think you embellished on my behalf a bit, but it was definitely the most nervous I've ever been. And I was a slide tackler, so I knew that you were taking a risk. In the box, first 3 minutes of the game, guy goes down. Questionable whether or not there was much contact, but Corey comes running in and fires a yellow card at the forward for diving. So I'm like, all right, cool. I had like a renewed sense of confidence after that.
That's right. Now I remember the yellow card. Okay, thank you for filling that in. So see, it was even better situation for you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so now we move on to what we're ready to talk about today, which is we were in Bobby Dodd Stadium on Saturday. You were in Bobby Dodd Stadium on Saturday.
Yes.
How neat was that to be as a Georgia Tech alum, having seen I guess in a normal undergrad span, you normally see about 40 football games there. And then to come in there and get to walk onto the field as now not a competitor necessarily, but you're part of what's about to happen as a professional, and just see that landscape from a different perspective, and just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, just walking into the stadium, we had 2 security guards for every referee. So we had 8 security guards with us. I guess they thought we were like an ACC football crew where there were 8 of us. But there was tons of security, and they actually walked me past where I used to go get hot dogs at the concession stand. And I said, okay, I know where we are right now. And then they took us down a stairwell that I'd never been to under the stadium. And that's when it kind of started to hit me once we got in this nice, pristine locker room. And then we usually get to the stadium about 2 hours beforehand to check out the field, check out the markings. And I just couldn't believe how perfect the grass was and what a perfect day it was at Bobby Dodd. And just be able to look up and see Georgia Tech or Bobby Dodd Stadium transformed into Atlanta United's home for a few months. It was just definitely got a lot of chills there for sure.
I think we were both in awe as well. And we had a crowd of Teeks with us and spouses.
Absolutely, yeah. That was really cool. They really went all out too at Bobby Dodd Stadium with the custom banners and stuff that were hung that fit the areas perfectly. Some of those triangular areas and stuff that you could tell they ordered that just for these 9 games that are going to be here.
Right.
Yeah, and the most surprising thing to me is that they ordered grass for these 9 games. Apparently this grass is going to go, they brought it in just for these 9 home games, and then they're going to tear it up once football season and put the turf back, put the artificial turf back. So the grass is one of the nicest. I'd say the turf was one of the nicest in MLS. I was shocked at how perfect it was.
Well, it's not just that. They actually demoed a bunch of concrete in order to bring in dirt so they could widen the field and take advantage of the surface area within the playing space.
I can't imagine the logistics for that. How crazy.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, pretty neat. And Atlanta United, and I guess probably Arthur Blank was the one that ultimately agreed to sort of foot the bill for all that. So as soon as MLS moves over to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta United will be giving Georgia Tech a new football field. So they'll put all the concrete back, and they'll put a new grass surface down.
Yeah.
The team president came and spoke to the referees before, just wished us luck, and said, "Sorry, this isn't the best place for soccer." And I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, this is the perfect place for a game." He had no idea I was a Tech grad, and I said, "No, this is perfect. You've done everything perfect here." And I don't think he realized the context with which I was saying it.
Yeah.
The nostalgia. I'm gonna tell you something. I got goosebumps no less than 20 or 30 times, and it didn't have anything to do with how well the game went. It was like I'm watching like what really is deep down inside my favorite sport. in my favorite place to watch a sport.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Among the times that I was getting goosebumps back there, and Corey, I wasn't a soccer fan till watching some of the World Cup stuff, and then once you start watching that World Cup stuff, then you start seeing these friendly matches with the U.S. team and the rest, and then right around the time I was really getting big into that, they announced Atlanta's getting a team, and then it became, all right, it's on now, so that was great. So and my wife and our esteemed producer, the Frizz 11, Serena, she played high school soccer. And so she loves it because it's the one sport that we can watch that she knows way more. So she's yelling down on the field for different stuff to happen. I'm going, what? I mean, kick the ball. Woo! more goals.
Put it in the net.
Yeah. So, one of the things that really gave me a lot of chills, we've had 2 sellouts in that stadium in a row, and the crowd has been really amazing. And hearing it from the stands was really cool. What did that sound like to you on the field? What was that feeling like? Was it something that you noticed?
Yeah, believe it or not, I couldn't. The chills went away once I put the uniform on. Believe it or not, and I was nervous. The big crowd obviously was there, but when it really hit me was I think around the 41st, 42nd minute when the whole stadium did the whole slow ATL clap, and it just got faster and faster, and then the place went absolutely bonkers. No score, play was going on normal, but I think that was the loudest the stadium was. The whole, and thankfully I didn't have much going on my end, and that's when I just kind of looked around and just soaked in, like, wow, this is completely unbelievable. It had to be just as loud as a normal Tech football game during that moment. It was amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. Everybody take a drink.
Yeah,
that's
drink
our drink cue.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah. Well, speaking of 100%, we got that drink cue from, we interviewed a Sprint Cup spotter named Brett Griffin, who spots for Clint Boyer at the Cup level and Elliott Sadler at the Xfinity level. Let's talk a little bit of NASCAR.
Let's do it.
You live in Phoenix now. You've been to that race, correct?
I have. I've been once, and then I tried to take my kids once. Unfortunately, if they gave an I tried sticker, I would. I was all set to bring my two kids, and we got closer and closer to the raceway, and the noise got louder and louder. And even though I had headphones for them, they were getting a little more nervous, and they said, "Daddy, can we just go home and watch it on TV?" So we drove all the way down there. I was all set to go in and bring the kids because they enjoy watching. And then we had it made the long walk back to the car. So haven't gotten my kids out there yet, but it's an amazing racetrack for sure.
Ironically, Noise has been in the news in NASCAR recently.
No kidding. Yeah.
So I'm going to spring something on you. NASCAR had they like to kind of tentatively lob shots just to see what happens, and I don't blame them for doing that. But they said, what if we tried to reduce the noise by about 10 decibels? I think they've said after studies the average loudness, if that's what we're calling it, the average number of decibels that you receive at the racetrack is between 95 and 105. And what if they could reduce it by 10?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about that last week. And those aren't linear numbers. Those are every factor of, like, every third decibel is like an order of magnitude of pressure in your ear. So maybe if NASCAR was able to reduce their noise by 10 decibels, your kids would have been totally chill with going to the race.
There's a case study right there for you. That's interesting. And something I would have never thought about, and a lot of the traditionalists and stuff. But, when your kids are saying something like that, you can't just be like, oh, I'll deal with it, blah, blah, blah. You're going to listen to them and stuff. So,
exactly. They
cool.
start gripping the arm tighter and tighter the closer we went. Then finally, it's like, Daddy, can we just go? Can we go? I said, don't you want to try? They said, no. So that was interesting. And this was in the parking lot. We still had about three or 4 minutes to walk to the to walk to the gates. So it was quite interesting.
Yeah. So here's something I've always wanted to ask a referee. Is who their favorites are. And we're just going to go for different sports here so we don't step on any toes. But NASCAR drivers, who do you root for, Corey?
Well, since I have a full-time job in addition to refereeing, so my company is currently sponsoring the Fastenal 4, the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So we have our Loctite logo on the back of his car. So I have to stick with that and support my company. And I've actually have been watching it to see how it does. And as I was telling you before, the first time I was watching this year, I think he got in a pretty bad accident during a practice run, and I saw our Loctite logo all smashed up and to pieces. So I'm not sure the marketing folks were too happy to see the logo like that. But yeah, I saw I got fourth in Phoenix this past weekend, so not too bad of a show. And
I was going to say I saw that he had finished so well this last week. It had to be a cool feeling for you.
Yeah, exactly. I was hoping to watch the race. I met some neighbors at our old neighborhood pub, and when I was there 10 years ago, before I moved to Phoenix, it was a nice Irish bar with TVs all over the place. We still met there, but we went in, and it's a comic book bar now. There's not a single freaking TV in the whole place. So there were pictures of comic books everywhere, but we still drank a Guinness there. But so I didn't get to watch the race as I had planned.
Oh man, comic book bar. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, it sounds...
Yeah, they had comic book bar. They had a 80s Centipede video game and Dig Dug and some 80s videos games. And I was very different than the old James Joyce pub when I was there before.
Well, some 80s video games, that might be right up my alley, though.
Well, true.
I could do that. We have one listener question, Sherwin.
Yeah, we do. We had someone who's also a soccer fan that wanted to try to help translate what soccer is and what NASCAR is from an official perspective. So,
okay,
in the best way you can, the way you understand how NASCAR is officiated today, how can you relate some of the judgment calls they have to make to the judgment calls you have to make? And how much would you say of the calls, how many of the calls that you make during the course of a match are judgment calls?
Yeah, good question. So I think both sports are going more and more towards technology. We're starting to embrace technology more. We're doing video replay trials, and I wouldn't be surprised if soccer moves to video replay coming up in the next year or two. There are all kinds of trials going on. So there's that aspect. I mean, just 3 years ago we didn't have these communication devices, and now we're all wired live and talking to each other during the game. And that's something we didn't have 3 years ago.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
I think, yeah. So we sometimes say some funny things, and just and it's good just to keep everyone in the, not only for the serious times where we say, hey, watch the guy threw an elbow behind your back. It's sometimes keep everyone laughing and focused during the game as well. So I think there's a real embracing of technology in both sports. So that's one thing. And as far as the judgment calls, I mean, a lot of it is where I do the lines. A lot of it, as we were talking before, Andrew, is not judgment. It's in or out. It's offside or it's not offside. But every one of those calls are analyzed after the fact, and we get scored every game, and every judgment call is analyzed, especially the key ones that can lead to a goal or lead to a game-changing decision. Those are the most crucial ones. But I think the one thing we both have in common is it has to be done fast. You can't. It's not like football where we can talk about it for a little while and then come up with a decision. It's literally within seconds, just like racing, that you have to make it, because you're influencing the sport in the moment right away. That's
a good point. Like, as it happens, you have to do that, as opposed to powwowing or whatever. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think one of our biggest criticisms of NASCAR is that because they haven't in the past had sort of like a halftime kind of a relationship with their TV coverage, is like they have to break during the action. You don't know when there's going to be a break. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's part of our criticism of NASCAR is, well, look at what soccer's doing. Okay, they're willing to sacrifice having made maybe a minor mistake on an officiating call in order to keep the flow of the game going. Mm-hmm. So how do we find some happy medium between what was this problem of NASCAR going to commercial during green and we come back and it's caution, and the fact that soccer's willing to stick around for 51, 52, 53 straight minutes, depending on how much extra time is added to a half? And like, what are those different TV programs? What are those different sponsorship programs? How does all that work? And how can we get somewhere in the middle so that we get to see more green flag racing in NASCAR?
Yep. No, that's some cool parallels. And I think, Corey, you were saying it too, just the fact that things are influenced in the moment and live as it happens. One of the other things with, one of the parallels with the two sports that really started getting me into soccer more was how there's always action. There's always something going on. That's the thing with NASCAR. Don't turn your head. Something could happen here. And same thing with soccer. It's not that out of bounds is going to stop the play forever, and it's not too many quarters or free throws and basketball and stuff. I mean, and baseball and everything else, football. They all have their sort of stoppages where these sports don't, and that's really intriguing. I'm not sitting here trying to say one's better than the other necessarily, but it is an intriguing part and another parallel that I tell people when I tell them I'm fans of both, and it's like, wow, that's not a whole lot of crossover. I'm like, well, if you think about it, there is some there in terms of nonstop action.
Right. I think one other big difference is I think and soccer's a lot like basketball and football and others where you see the faces and you know the personalities. Obviously I'm on Twitter. People know I'm from Atlanta. So and maybe an NASCAR official I couldn't tell you. I don't know if they ever show his or her face during the entirety of the whole race. I think one important example is I had a key call in the Atlanta United game, and had I gotten it wrong, they would have said. If it would have been an error in Chicago's detriment, they would have said he's a homer. He's for Atlanta. I can't believe you assigned him to this game. We should never put him on Atlanta United game again. If it would have been an error against Atlanta, the Atlanta people would have said he can't handle the pressure of being from his hometown. But thankfully, I got the call right. So they're saying neither of those things right now. So.
Yeah, that's
a really good point. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you is, and I can't remember the specific match, but I obviously I'm a big supporter of yours, and when I get to see you on the TV, especially if something crazy's going down, I like to snap a picture and get you some exposure. What is that like for you when something really crazy happens? I remember in my mind you having to step on the field because things were getting nuts, and you kind of having to calm guys down and maybe even sort of separate some guys and stuff like that. When do you tell us about how you go about the decision to get into that place?
Yeah, it's strange that I'm one of the senior guys now. I mean, I think on the list right now, I'm the third most experienced assistant referee. So the good news is that gets a lot of weight. Even if I mess something up, at least I have 230 previous games of experience where they know it's not typical on me. But if the guy in the center is struggling, I have to think of a quick one-liner to calm the coach down. And even on Saturday. I mean, the Chicago coach went crazy. His team had a red card. They were goal down, and what he was saying to the fourth official was not working. And I just came up quietly, and after he had screamed and yelled, and just put my arm around him and said, "From my angle, I agree with the referee on that." And that's all it took, and he was fine. So it's kind of the good cop, bad cop thing. But you kind of know you either wait for the fire in their eyes to die down a little bit before approaching them, and sometimes it just takes saying, "Yeah, coach, I had the same angle as you on that, and I can't comment any further," which is my subtle way of saying I agree with you, coach.
Right. Well, I want to say this as soon as, and I guess I'm just going to give myself some credit here. I'm going to toot my own horn. As soon as that foul took place and the referee blew his whistle, I said, that's got to be a red.
Yeah.
Based on his position on the field in relationship to the goal, I said, that's got to be red. That's red.
Yeah. The whole crowd was into it and everything else. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. So, Corey, I know we're coming up on time here. Can't thank you enough for being on the podcast. This has been a blast, and there's like 1,000 more questions I want to ask, and maybe we'll do it on the next time. How about that?
All right, deal. I'll bring my big pit crew headphones again for it. So
love it.
Heck yeah.
Well, tell the folks where they can find you and what you're up to.
Sure, no problem. So you can find me on Twitter. It's at Corey Rock. So you can find me there. And as far as assignments, I have nothing on the schedule right now. We get assigned 3 weeks in advance, so I'm going to be off for a couple weeks, and then you may see me poke my head around and come around to Easter time. So got a few weeks to relax and train.
Well, that's great.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for being on, y'all. Corey Rockwell, if I can say it right. Still mingling words.
Corey Rock.
Close
at
enough.
Corey Rock.
And,
Corey Rock.
and go Jackets.
Yes,
All
go Jackets.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, y'all.
Go Jackets, huh? Right there at the end. That was fun.
That was awesome.
That was really fun. I hope y'all enjoyed that. We absolutely had a blast in there, and I absolutely mean it. There's like 1,000 more questions I want to ask, and I'm hoping. And we were even talking with Corey a little bit afterwards that Shorin was a soccer referee. I refereed basketball and baseball. I really did a lot of basketball and moved up in that. And so the stories that you get to tell and everything. But then again, that crossover that we talked about beforehand, that crossover and all these people that we're talking to who are also NASCAR fans and are able to parallel what they're doing with NASCAR. Really cool to have these folks on.
Well, I think in general, especially if we take a look at what our audience has been and how they've interacted with us, that this is exactly the kind of guests that they seem to enjoy us having. Like, hey, I got to hear about something I don't know anything about.
Right.
And it fuels that fire that we say is like the best thing you can do on a podcast, especially if you're a fan group, is teach your audience something and make them laugh.
Yep.
And have fun while you're doing it.
And learn something yourself too. Well, with that, we got to go to not this yet. Let's see. Oh, I've got something here for it. Goodness gracious, the
lightning outside
is nuts. We're just gonna keep on going. That's tearing it down, man. Phoenix, how about that?
Yeah. Well, let me just get into it.
Newman. Breaking his 127 race non-winning streak. His last one was July 28th, 2013. It was funny at Atlanta because he got outside pole, and I told you over under on number of laps that Newman leads at Atlanta, and I set the over under at 0.5.
At a half.
Yeah, at a half.
And I was like, I'll take the under.
And you were right. And so here we are a few weeks later, and he gets a win. What does this mean? What does this mean in the greater context, or does it?
I don't know. I think what it means in the greater context is that Phoenix is a place where unpredictability is going to be a big part of how the race ends if we have late cautions, because we have a very flat surface, not necessarily designed for stock cars. We have
not going to chew up tires.
We put our tire manufacturer in a very tough spot of having to deliver a tire that can withstand as much heat as possible.
And that side force and all that, yeah.
And so you know what? It's not a surprise that we've had some strange finishes. I mean, we've experienced a personal win there because of similar situations. That it's Phoenix is going to always be a little bit weird.
Kyle Larson, second place for the third straight race, and we've only had what, 4?
We've only had just the 4,
right? And
so now he's the points leader
straight. Yep, and now the points leader, well deserved too. I mean, and we
kicking ass.
We get to the picks and taking names, and we get to the picks every week, and it's like, well, I can't choose a guy like Kevin Harvick who just wins at Phoenix all the time. It almost gets to the point where, like, well, if I just say Kyle Larson every week, I know it's going to happen, But he's coming up. He's due. What can I say?
Well, he's really good at California. Oh, by the way.
Oh, guess what we have coming up? Yeah.
Save that for later, Andrew. That's a different segment.
Right. And Jeffrey Whitler, Southern Wit on here just said, and he was leading at Daytona on the last lap. I mean, shoot.
That's right.
That was the other one that he didn't get second place in.
Right, only because of that weird restrictor plate racing stuff we do where, like, you can somehow be second place on the last lap, not run out of gas, and oh wait, no, he did. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yep.
He ran out of he was skipping a little bit.
So holy crap.
I mean, Kyle's super fast, and like very quietly Jamie's fast too, in a different way, which lets you know that Ganassi's for real. Like, they are for real, and we need to take them very seriously.
Right. So, moving on, WTF moment. NASCAR announcing yesterday that the Xfinity Series is going to run a restrictor plate at Indianapolis in July, and of course, a lot of people have a lot of stuff to say about that, huh?
Well, it's natural for people to lose their minds when NASCAR makes mascara. NASCAR makes a big decision, like running plates at Indianapolis. There's a ton of chatter. We'll let you guys are going to you're going to hear and read everything from the people that actually know what's going on. But our initial reaction, or at least my initial reaction, is there aren't 2 grooves at Indy. So how is restrictor plates how are they going to help?
We've done, and I think Nate Ryan was the one who kind of talked me into this. Like, we keep doing some test stuff with the Xfinity Series or Nationwide when it was, and some of them hit and some of them miss, and I think all of them ahead of time you go, there's no way that's going to work, and so who knows? I don't know. This is weird to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think
what are we trying to create? It's really flat. Well, it's there's different corners and stuff, but what are we trying to accomplish? What do you think NASCAR's trying to accomplish here?
Well, I'm going to piggyback what I listened about, listened to Dale Jr. say today on his podcast is, not to just like record a segment of his and then replay it, but it was like one of the things you don't see in NASCAR is somebody pull out down one of those long straightaways and pass.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how you pass in NASCAR in Indianapolis, but that is how you pass in an Indy car in the Indy 500.
Okay.
So is NASCAR trying to recreate that? Perhaps. I don't know. What's weird is, like, in your mind you're thinking restrictor plates, Daytona, Talladega.
Mm-hmm.
You run 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4 wide all the way around the track.
Right.
Well, guess where you're not going to be able to do that? Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Right. With the grooves they have. I think it's it's intriguing to me. It's one of those what-if scenarios that they get to just play because they're the rich guys, right? Up in the White Towers and stuff.
And even more so now that they've taken Dash for Cash away from that race.
Yep.
So they don't have near as much of that attention on it. So it's like,
well, we knew that was only going to last a year,
rolling the dice, right? Like, why don't we? If you want to try something, you want to get really weird.
Yeah,
Xfinity at Indy is the place to do it because nobody was showing up for that race anyway. If there was 20,000 people there last year, I'll eat my hat. At a place that holds 400.
Yeah. And it's funny because I said this experimental stuff, like the Dash for Cash and the heat racing stuff, and they're like, we're going to do it at Bristol. Okay. We're going to do it at Martinsville. Okay. We're going to do it at Indianapolis. Huh? Wait, go back.
What?
Like,
how do you mean? Whoop, record scratch.
Right. And that lasted once.
It lasted the time.
Right. So who knows? I don't feel as big of a record scratch here. This is kind of a what-if scenario. Like, okay, well, there's only the 1.5 grooves here or whatever. What if we run a restrictor plate on it? See what happens. Okay, well, fine. Let's see.
Yeah, well, the weird thing is they'll be drafting down the straightaways, which means the speed between individual car and multi-car is going to be very different. It means they're going to be hitting the corner likely faster than they would, definitely faster than they would by themselves. The weird thing is if NASCAR would explain to us why they left ORP or Lucas Oil Raceway or whatever we're calling that thing, IRP, Indianapolis Race Park, if they told us why they left there, gave us a little bit of transparency, maybe it would be a little bit easier to adopt these things at Indianapolis. And while we know it's money, thank you, Periscope, we know it's money, just admit it.
Yep.
Tell people what you're doing.
Yeah. Speaking of some funny money stuff, Kyle Busch, dadgummit, this is a love-hate thing with me because every time I love him, we've said it on here before, every time I love him, he does something boneheaded and I hate it. And then he turns around and I love it again. So Kyle Busch is selling T-shirts that say everything is great on them, which if you know that all the interviews he's done since the whole fight thing, he just keeps saying everything's great, the car's fine, can't wait to get it next week. So he's now selling everything is great T-shirts. Guess how much money he's selling them for?
$22?
$22. You know what that means.
That's A-level troll.
That is A-level troll is what it is. And all the proceeds go to Kyle Busch Foundation. I can't hate this. I love this.
I almost bought one already. I might still buy one.
I love this.
So, like, yeah, this is one of the great things that happens in NASCAR with anybody that has a sense of humor. And we've seen a lot of funny stuff. We've talked about Junior and Blaney. We've talked about some other things that go down. And this is just yet another one. And it's very much like the fire suit thing with Logano and Harvick.
Oh, yeah, Who was
and
fire
Delana.
suit?
I mean, Delana was the one was like, I got an idea.
Uh-huh.
And that went to their foundation, too. And it's like, it's funny that Logano's sort of the butt of the joke both times. That should sort of let him know where he's at.
That's kind of funny. I like that.
But it doesn't mean it's not funny, even if you hate Kyle Busch. It's absolutely hilarious. And it's going to help good people.
Yes.
Because it's foundation money. It's nonprofit money. So it's great. I think it's awesome. If that's the way, all NASCAR drivers should troll people they get in fights with this way.
I love it. And the $22 thing, I about flipped my laptop over. I was like, you got to be – he's selling it for $22. You go to hell.
No, it's perfect.
Troll of the week absolutely wins that. You just mentioned it, though. I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast. We talked about it in the pre-show. Blaney versus Junior, too. Blaney pretty much saying, I roasted my tires because Junior's an a-hole.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And so Junior, in the pre-snippet they do for his download, he was like, sound like Blaney had some bad words to call me. I'm trying to do my best upstate North Carolina, but there's been a lot of back and forth between Junior and Blaney, and even Amy Earnhardt jumped in the mix, and there was some funny things because as adults, we appreciate it when people don't treat themselves like adults; they treat themselves like children. Like Amy tweeted out, I think a couple days ago, she said, "I don't know if Blaney's allowed to come back over here and play for a while." And Junior was like, "Man, comes over, drinks your beer, calls you the D word." And expects you just to be friends again. And so Blaney, Blaney tweets at Amy today, how many flowers do I have to buy you so I can come back over and play again? Like, that stuff's funny as hell.
That's great. Yeah, that's fantastic. And we've talked about it before. What you say on the radio, I'm not saying it stays on the radio. Obviously, everybody can hear it, and they're recording it, and they can replay it back later. But I think all the drivers understand that's heat of the moment stuff. Me and you have talked about it when we've wrecked in just little, I shouldn't say little, the 45, 50-mile-an-hour go-karts that we've run.
Yeah.
And me and you have wrecked. And, I mean, I've called you everything under the sun, and then we get out and I'm like, that was insane. That was awesome. But if you're recording me, I'm, we're not friends anymore.
Oh, right. I mean, there's been middle fingers ridden around for entire laps.
I've middle fingered the and I'm holding up one right now off camera.
The official.
The official, yeah, because the official's like, let him go around, and I'm flipping him off. I'm like, I'm the dude in the 45-mile-an-hour vehicle. He's got to come get me.
Yeah, like, or the other way around. It's like, hey, man, give this guy the flag, and if they don't understand what it means, you need to explain it.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's time to gas
Might
it
have
up.
been
You
your
ready?
wife once.
It could have been. Could have been.
I didn't want to wreck her. I'd get in trouble.
I appreciate that. So, gassing it up, NASCAR returns to Hollywood swinging.
Oh, yeah. It's
Going
always
right
fun
back.
when they go to Fontana because there's going to be, like, people that NASCAR people are like, what the hell are they doing at the racetrack? And it's like, hey, do you own a globe? Do you know where Fontana is? It's in the heart of it. Like, it's in Los Angeles.
And we're talking about a race that over the last several years, and I feel like I'm a broken record here because we've said this on the podcast every time it comes around the last couple of years, is wire to wire, one of the most intriguing and exciting races of the year.
Well, do you remember those back-to-back races we had with Harvick and Jimmy?
Mm-hmm.
Harvick was still with RCR.
Goosebumps. There comes some.
So we're going on 5 years now that this has been the best fast track race on the circuit. Especially the TV product is fantastic. We need to talk to our friend Cliff Doherty about what the in-person product is because obviously he's experienced
I gotta imagine it's as exciting.
Like there's so many there's really 5 lanes. You can run 5 different lanes. So it doesn't matter what kind of way you like to drive. If you're Harvick or you're Kenseth, you can run the bottom or the middle. If you're Larson or Junior or some of these other sprint car guys like Casey and Stenhouse, you can run the high line. It's a flat track, so you don't. It's a little bit different than like say going to It's way different from Michigan for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've accused Michigan of being boring. Since the surface has come in at California, at Fontana, that is just about the best race on the circuit for me, other than the short tracks and the road courses.
Yeah. But again, it's that wire to wire for me. Just every lap, and you see them. They'll go 5 wide. F it. Why not? Let's do it. So, yeah, it's exciting coming up. And since it's there, whoa, I'm doing gassing it up again. Well, why not?
More noise makers.
You know what? I did a pretty good job so far today with sounds.
You did good.
And
But
synchronizing all this stuff.
Up.
And then now it goes all to garbage. What I meant to do was our kind of mascot here. So you know what that is. That means it's time for
Does that
picks.
mean we have to make picks?
That means we have to make picks. Now, last week, I picked Dale Earnhardt Jr. He ended up finishing 14th, although he was like second in practice. After we had picked, he was second in practice or third in practice. You picked Ryan Blaney, who was the other one, either second or third in practice, and he ended up like 24th or something. So,
yeah, you finished ahead of me.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not proud of that.
That late race caution was bullspit.
Yeah, that was tough. Well, I mean, Ryan Newman won. What can you say? So,
right.
I guess it's up to me.
You know, a race is kind of weird when Ryan Newman wins it.
Yeah. And one of the things you got to love about Auto Club here is the parity. If you go back and look and you're trying to do your research, it's like anybody could win this race. Everybody's good here. So why not have somebody different or crazy or whatever come up? I'm not sure about Hendrick right now. I'm not sure. There's some things I'm not sure about. There's folks who have won before that I'm looking at, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going with Joey. Joey.
That's a really good pick. He's been very fast there in the past.
He has. I don't think he has a win there yet. So it's one of those. It's time for a win. It's time for a win this
Tony
season.
Stewart water bottle toss.
Yeah, yeah. So going with Joey this time, and I'm telling you, that's because it's really hard not to pick a couple of the guys who've just been up front this whole time.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go outside the realm here a little bit, and I'm going to pick Casey Kane.
Attaboy.
That's who I'm going with. So I don't have anything to support that decision other than I think they're fast. I'm not sure everything that happened at Phoenix was the fault of the driver and the crew chief. It sounded like Hendrick brought a very aggressive brake cooling package that didn't play in their favor once temperature hit 96 degrees.
Right. Well, I mean, Jimmy won the last race here. So, that's Hendrick has been strong here. We'll see where they're at this coming week. I'm excited to watch this. I'm actually really excited. So
yeah, I am too.
It's going to be. We know it's going to be fun. Y'all know the last thing we do though. No, not the last thing yet. Actually, we have a listener question here.
Yeah, we do.
Colby McClam at KGEE61, and Colby is an official sponsor of the PETM podcast. Thank you, Colby. He's asking us, do you think there will be new tracks built in the near future for NASCAR? And I think the context of that was because of all the mile-and-a-halfers that are going on and stuff, and I think people getting a little bit bored with that same cookie cutter, as if we call it that. Our home track is a cookie cutter, so what can I say?
Unfortunately, the answer is no.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. When I saw this question, I was like, I love where you're going with this, and with the idea of it, the magic of it, the aura that you know what I mean. Like, oh, that would be really cool. The fantasy of having a new track built, but I mean, I know we're not in the 08 economy of being tanked or whatever, but the NASCAR economy right now. If you look at NASCAR, why would you build a track right now? I'm not sure that is anything that you would want to get into at this moment, and that's unfortunate for us.
The cost to start from scratch is astounding, for one. One of the clues that you should take in is that NASCAR itself, like NASCAR, the sanctioning body, bought the Iowa Speedway so that ISC and or SMI could not get in a bid war for it in an attempt to get a race there, which effectively means we're never going to see a cup race at Iowa Speedway. So to hope that we're going to build a new track somewhere,
yep,
it's like,
and they would pick it up
like a tornado hurricane/earthquake/volcano would have to destroy a track.
Yeah, all at the same time.
So that's the only way we're getting something new.
And anything new, I think we would go to a different. There's so many tracks out there that we could go to, and especially with the attendance numbers that we're drawing right now, we could fill up, potentially fill up a track in the seats and stuff. So there's so many intriguing places that I think we could go to instead of doing that. If you remember, we had Tommy Joe on about a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was, and he talked about the logistics of going to a new track and what the costs are and everything. And it just doesn't make sense in the current NASCAR economy to even go to a new track, much less because, we always why don't we get Greenville Pickens? Why don't we get Hickory? Why don't we, all these other well, here's the reason. So
yeah, well, it's two things. Well, it's more than two things, but there's two main things. Is can you upgrade the amenities to support what a Cup race needs in terms of safety and garage space, and can you afford the sanctioning fee? I think that's one of the things Tommy Joe is constantly reminding us is that the sanctioning fee for a NASCAR race, even if it's just a truck race, is like astounding.
Yeah,
for a local short track, even one that may have hosted Cup or NASCAR touring series in the past, like Myrtle Beach or Bowman Gray or Greenville Pickens or Nashville Fairgrounds, and I could keep listing on
Absolutely.
and on. They have to install wall-to-wall safer barrier inside and out. The garage amenities have to be upgraded. And the stands, bathrooms, concession stands have to be upgraded. And NASCAR puts that on the track owner to do all of that. So if you're not SMI and you're not ISC and not pulling monies from all these other races and tracks that you own, there's just no way to get that done.
Yep. So, I don't see him. I don't see him building anytime soon. Here's one counterpoint: Eldora, but that was that had the money back.
Tony is a monster in NASCAR.
Exactly, he's such a monster.
He's a Hall
that's
of Famer.
So that's what you need, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the counterpoint is, well, Eldora did it. So and the reason they did it is because Tony's the monster that he is. That's the kind of backing you have to get to a new speedway.
Yes, 100%.
100%. Time to drink. And it's time for Strange with Stang. Sherwin, you want to read this one up?
Yeah, hold on. Yep, here we go. All right, so our Ashley Stang, Strange with Stang question or idea or thought of the week is, what is the most inventive strange witch you've ever tried?
Now, stop right there. Strange witch. I love that.
I do too.
And it's Strange with Stang, and it's Stang. It's Strange witch. I love it.
But where do we get that? Do you recall?
You tell me.
Dale Jr. and his banana mayonnaise sandwich.
Oh, did he call that Strange witch at the time?
Well, I think a lot of people were calling that after the fact, that's a strange witch. And I'm like, well, I don't know.
Not if you grew up in the South.
Yeah, not if you grew up in the South, especially if your parents grew up poor.
Yeah.
I mean, my
or if
mom,
their parents grew up poor, like this is like second, third generation stuff.
My mom grew up poor, and they didn't always have bologna. They had banana and mayonnaise, though.
Hell yeah.
And Wonder Bread.
Right. Anyway, keep going.
All right, so what's the most inventive strange witch you've tried, even if it was on accident and you were really just drunk hungry? Like you didn't have all the right ingredients, or maybe you mixed some ingredients that weren't friends, but you ate it anyway, but would never eat it again.
Well, I can tell you.
How many times did we get in the Teak kitchen and make
disasters? Did we get in the Teak kitchen and make disasters? So back in the first thing I thought of, was, oh man, back in college, back in the fraternity house, and we had tortillas. So maybe it's call it a wrap or whatever you want to call it. You remember the time, Sherwin?
Yes.
You might even know where I'm going when I'm saying this. We had chicken fingers. Right, back in the day.
We had to microwave.
And so these things were raw. These were raw chicken wrapped in breading that the chef would just throw into the fryer like he did everything. I say chef.
Yeah, and they were in the -5 freezer, so super cold.
Right, super cold. Well, when you said drunk hungry, I immediately went to these chicken fingers in a wrap where we just took the chicken fingers and we didn't want to wait on that oil to heat up or nothing. So we just said, well, hell with it. We'll just throw it in the microwave. And we threw it in the microwave for like 10 minutes or whatever it was, thinking, it'll cook, it'll be fine. Throw that sucker around a tortilla, take a bite, and the chicken is maybe a medium rare.
It's transparent in the middle.
Oh God! I ate every bite of it.
Transparent and cold in the middle.
Ate every bite of that stupid chicken wrap, raw chicken salmonella poisoning thing. Didn't get sick. Enjoyed every bite of it. Would never do it again. So, Ashley, I hope that answers your question.
I remember when we used to get out the Philly cheesesteak stuff.
Oh, crap!
Make the best case.
Oh,
well,
my
though I would
gosh.
eat those again, though. So
I would eat that. I wouldn't eat the
the raw chicken fingers sat in the microwave that doesn't have the spinny.
Oh yeah,
This
Dead
space microwave. Like the one that probably gives you cancer if you stand in front of it.
Oh, my gosh. No kidding. No kidding. Well, let's start wrapping this thing up. We want to thank Corey Rockwell for joining us today. That was so much fun. At Corey Rock. Be sure to follow him. Hey, y'all know where to find us. Patreon.com/PETM. Become a sponsor. We're fixing to write all these checks to some folks coming up very soon. Now that we've hit some milestones there. Be sure to get your sticker. I'm showing it right here at the $2 a month club. At the $1 a month, we'll send you a koozie. Koozie's fixing to go out with the stickers. We got everything. We're ready to roll with that. Thank you, everybody, for joining, as always. And follow us, I should say, at PETM Podcast. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Andrew Sherwin, at Pregame ENG. And take a nice long look at this T-shirt I'm wearing. Brad Younker's Motorsports. Brad's on Lap Traffic tonight. That will post tomorrow, so y'all go give them just as much support as you give us.
Oh, it's going to be a blast, y'all. Thank you for joining. We'll talk to y'all next week. Thumbs up!